The John F. Kennedy Forum has acquired a formidable reputation, and I'm grateful that its organizers decided to make me part of this year's events. I've chosen to speak on a theme of Africa's relevant to our contemporary situation, befitting of the Africa Development Conference, a theme which sums up the essence of African aspirations, empowering the youth, Africa's golden future, unquote. To talk about the future is to talk about the unknown. At the same time, to talk about the future is to talk about the hopes, aims, and objectives of a people. I'm unable to validate the saying that the golden age is always in the past. It is obvious that Africa's golden age is yet to come. How can we not hope for a golden age, a golden future, when we are blessed with such enormous material wealth and vibrant human resources which remain largely untapped? The world, particularly Africa, has the largest generation of young people in history. I place great hope in their capacity to shape the future of Africa and make Africa the lion that it was meant to be. Africa has to have a strategy to reap the demographic dividend that a youthful population offers. The Asian tigers, so-called, South Korea, Japan, Singapore, and Malaysia, are where they are today because of the systematic investments they made in the development of their human capital. The period of boom and growth happened when their populations shifted from ones of many dependents to ones dominated by working age groups. And this is where Africa is today. We should not fail to realize that we are at the brink of a breakthrough. Having said that, I must obviously add that the population opportunity will not automatically guarantee us a future of growth and prosperity. Demographic dividends do not come automatically. They have to be earned. To realize the dividend, African countries have to invest in the empowerment, education, and employment of our young people. With over 40% of its working population between the ages of 15 and 24, Africa is the youngest continent in the world. This represents a staggering amount of human capital. And according to the African Economic Outlook, this number is set to double by 2045. Yet too many of them are trapped in poverty, with few opportunities to learn or to earn a decent living. According to the World Bank, youth account for 60% of all African unemployed. For those that manage to find work, they do not do so in a place that pays a good wage or develops their skills or provides a measure of job security. The Brookings Institute states that more than 70% of the youth in the Republic of Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Ghana, Malawi, Mali, Rwanda, Senegal, and Uganda are either self-employed or contributing to family work. No one needs to tell us that mass employment in Africa, especially amongst her youth, is a ticking time bomb. The so-called Arab Spring showed clearly that lack of employment opportunities can undermine social cohesion and political stability. With between 10 to 12 million youths joining the labor market every year, Africa has to pay maximum attention to job creation. Ahmad Salkida, a Nigerian journalist who has had rare access to Boko Haram, the jihadist group operating in Nigeria, has said that although the sect is driven by ideology, pervasive unemployment in northern Nigeria makes predictably for easy recruitment of jobless young people. A World Bank survey in 2011 showed that 40% of those who join rebel movements say they are motivated by a lack of jobs. Young people are willing to risk everything to improve their circumstances. We have seen in recent times high numbers of them taking harrowing risks around the Sahara Desert, and the Mediterranean, trying to reach the mirage of a better life in Europe. What this means is that if we provide them the right environment in Africa, they'll make our continent great. If these youth are encouraged to spend their considerable energies at home, Africa could experience huge economic gains. There are self-evident steps that can help African countries achieve the demographic dividend. Increasing investment in young people is key. This includes promoting quality education that prepares them for a future of opportunities. Diversity of training will be needed, from quality primary and secondary schools to technical and vocational training schools to teacher training colleges to research-intensive universities. For young people to be able to exploit the economic opportunities that abound in Africa, they must have the skills and training necessary to take advantage of them. In doing this, Africa has to fashion an education policy that is also gender sensitive. For women are a clear majority of the African population. As the African Union's gender champion, I'm aware that young women feel the sting of unemployment even more sharply. The Africa Development Bank found that in Africa too, it is easier for men to get jobs than it is for women, even if they have equivalent skills and experience. In Ghana, we're aiming at parity, at reaching parity in terms of female-male enrollment in our universities. Also essential is empowering women and girls by guaranteeing their sexual and reproductive health and human rights. This enables them to determine when and whom to marry and the number of children that they want to have. They will have the tools to determine the direction of their destiny. When women and girls are able to make these decisions, they're better able to complete their educations and pursue jobs. That is why the free senior high school policy, instituted by my government 2 years ago, which is expanding dramatically access to secondary school education for all of Ghana's young people, is opening up greater and greater vistas of opportunities for Ghana's young female population. Legislation is on its way to redefine basic education to encompass kindergarten up to the end of senior high school and make it compulsory for all of Ghana's children. This 21st century is the century of science and technology. The mastery of digital technology by African youth must be the compelling challenge for them, if indeed they're able to survive in this competitive technological environment. They have to survive. The Costa Rican example should serve as an inspiration for Africa. Costa Rica moved from being a banana exporting country to a net exporter of microprocessor chips that earns them billions of dollars, in contrast to the few $1 million from the export of bananas. Technology is what helps us to make the world truly a global village and enables once poor people to become prosperous and scale up the value of their economic activities. There's a set of statistics that I've been pulling out to make the point. Between Ghana and our neighbor Côte d'Ivoire, we produce 65% of the world's output of cocoa. The chocolate industry is a 100 billion United States dollars industry. And we, who produce 65% of its raw material, cocoa, make less than $6 billion from the toil of our farmers, i.e. barely 6% of the entire value chain of cocoa. The farmers, whose efforts make possible the growth of this lucrative industry, receive nearly a pittance for their labors. This is not right. We need to change the statistics. If we simply ground and sold the cocoa in paste form, instead of selling the cocoa beans, we double our earnings. In much the same way as we double our earnings from gold if we sold it refined than in its raw states. I do understand that there are nations who have built their industrial complexes around the value chain of our raw commodities. It is time to change that setup. In Ghana, through my government's one district, one factory policy, we're ensuring an even spatial spread of industries. This policy is intended to promote rapid rural industrialization at the district level, driven by strong linkages to agriculture and other natural resource endowments in order to create jobs and development. It is time we were responsible for processing our own resources. It is time that we in Africa manage our resources well to generate wealth for our populations. What is true of our agricultural resources is equally so, if not more so, for our mineral resources. 30% of the Earth's remaining minerals are to be found on the continent of Africa. We've been told by the highly respected former president of the Republic of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, chair of the high-level panel that produced a report on illicit financial flows from Africa, commissioned by the Joint African Union Commission and United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, Conference of African Ministers for Finance, Planning, and Economic Development, that Africa is losing annually more than 50 billion United States dollars through illicit financial outflows. He revealed further that between 2000 and 2008, 252 billion, i.e. 56%, was from the extractive industries, including mining. Imagine the implications of us ensuring that even 50% of these amounts remain on the continent. We have to work feverishly at that. There's a critical need to involve young people in decisions that affect them. We cannot talk about sustainable development without the active involvement of youth. The former United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon argues that when we give young people decent jobs, political weight, negotiating muscle, and real influence in our world, they will create a brighter future. Hence, Africa cannot talk about shaping the future without talking about the welfare and well-being of young people. It is important that Africa takes these ideas forward to harness the value of a youthful population, holding human rights, gender equality, development of human capital, and dignity at the center of all of our investments. Only by providing opportunities that open the future to all young people do we create a brighter future. The median age in Ghana is 19 and a half years. Hence the overriding importance of democratic consolidation in Africa. Post-colonial authoritarian rule failed the African peoples. It continued the impoverishment of our people, which was the consequence of colonialism and imperialism. As a result, a new paradigm shift is being undertaken to guide the transformation of poor agrarian economies into value-adding industrialized economies on the basis of democratic values and institutions. Africa is indeed attempting something novel in human history. We're trying to use the instruments of democracy to propel societies from poverty to prosperity. All previous successful efforts in this direction have been made either by authoritarian regimes or by limited democracies. Britain is a case in point. The 19th century Industrial Revolution took place against a background of limited franchise for the mass of the British people. Indeed, the wide extensions of the franchise by the Great Reform Acts of the 19th century went hand in hand with the evolution of the Industrial Revolution. And it was only in 1928 that women finally achieved the right to vote, long after the triumph of the Industrial Revolution. America is another case in point, where for most of the 19th and 20th centuries, her black population was denied the right to vote, even though the Industrial Revolution also triumphed in America in the late 19th century. We in Africa are proceeding on the basis of full universal adult suffrage in promotion of human rights on a broad scale. If we succeed, which I'm very confident we will, we would have done something unprecedented in human history. It would enable us to build a new progressive African civilization, grounded on a system of governance that respects individual liberties and human rights, the rule of law, and the principles of democratic accountability, and rooted in our own indigenous cultural identity to make its own unique contribution to the growth of world civilization. My speech has many of the makings of a dream, but it is a dream that is grounded in reality. I don't accept that the African has a DNA that dooms us to failure. Africans can, like all the other peoples that have succeeded, make life meaningful and worth living for their own people. We must cultivate an irrepressible desire to do right by the citizens. The resources of our nations belong to our people. They do not belong to the political class or any other elite. To appropriate the wealth of our nations for the benefit of a few is both morally wrong and criminally culpable. On my part, I've established the Office of Special Prosecutor, an independent, non-partisan body with the relevant professional capability, led by a renowned anti-corruption campaigner, indeed who's a leading member of the opposition, to investigate and prosecute exclusively acts of corruption. The office is to lead the fight and hold public officials, past and present, accountable for their stewardship of public finances. Africans, dare I say, can and must do it themselves. We cannot expect others to do it for us. Many of us felt a sense of guilt and shame when the former British Prime Minister, Tony Blair, said, and I quote, "Africa is the scar on the conscience of the world," unquote. We can and must build Africa on a strong foundation of the ability and industry of its citizens, an Africa that exemplifies the true spirit of its people working towards the common goal of better existence. Honest, disciplined management of public finances, strong macroeconomic fundamentals, competitive business environment, enhanced mobilization of savings and investments. These are some of the basic elements that have to be established to permit the growth of robust economies on the continent, which can then generate jobs and rising living standards for our young people. They are the mix